welcome to the January edition of the Springs Valley School Board. We're going to start tonight's proceedings with the administration of the oath of office to our newly elected members. Mr. Tucker is here to handle this.
He's got it.
That's what I was thinking.
Solemnly swear that I will
Solemnly
support
swear
the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, the laws of the United States, and the state of Indiana. I will faithfully execute the duties of my office as a member of this honorable body.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Welcome, Mrs. Newland. At this time, we're going to open board to reorganization. Do you have any recommendations for this? Open for nominations.
I recommend Chris Burton remain as president, Dustin Ferris vice president, and Todd Marshall as secretary and legislative liaison.
Then, any other nominations?
I will second that nomination.
Sorry. Second Ed. Is there any other nominations to this? Motion to close nominations? Mr. Lynch makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Weinger seconds. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. So the nomination is for Mr. Burke, President, Mr. Ferris, Vice President, Mr. Marshall as Secretary and the Legislative Liaison. Do we have a motion for this? Mr. Weinger makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Lynch seconds. Any discussion on these? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. At this time, I would like to recommend Mrs. Felicia Wolfington to be appointed as the treasurer of the Springs Valley School Corporation. Do we have a motion for this? Mr. Ferris makes a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Lynch seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Wolfington has recommended Mrs. Peggy Simmons as her deputy treasurer. Do we have a motion for this? Mr. Weininger makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Ferris seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. At this time, we currently meet the second Monday of each month with the executive session beginning at 5 p.m. followed by 6 p.m. regular session in the Springs Valley High School auditorium. We have a motion to continue this or a motion to change this? Take a motion. Motion to continue. We have a second. Mr. Marshall second. Sorry, Mr. Weininger makes the motion. Mr. Marshall seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Board's currently paid $2,000 annually, $100 per meeting, $50 per special meeting. We have a motion to continue this. Mr. Lynch makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Ferris seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Also, you provided dental, vision, and life insurance benefits. We have a motion for this. Mr. Wire makes the motion, Mr. Marshall seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. We also need to appoint a member to the Lost River Career Cooperative, been held by Mr. Burkeiser. We have a nomination for that. Nomination for Mr. Burkeiser. Do we have any others? Hearing none, take a motion to Mr. Burkeiser. Mr. Pearsmith, you made the motion. Nominate. Okay. We go. Mr. Marshall makes the motion for Mr. Burkeiser. Mr. Ferris seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 7 will be our minutes, vouchers, and claims. Consent for those for the December 9th, 2024 meeting and for the 2024 year-end transfers. All this was provided to you in your files. We have a motion for this. Mr. Burkeiser makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Weininger seconds. Any discussion on those? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Take us to item 8, recognitions and acknowledgements. And Mr. Pritchett.
Okay, I'm gonna be doing high school and our elementary school tonight, because Mrs. Carnes had a ball game she had to supervise. So first of all, we'd like to welcome back our students and staff after a Christmas break and then an extended break following that. It's kind of nice to get back and get into the groove, so we're ready to get back and get after it. From the high school side on recognitions, the National Association of School Principals has chosen 4 of our students, Madeline Vejos, Michaela Vejos, Landon Ferris, and Dylan Shipman as Rising Stars of Indiana. So congratulations to those 4 students. I received that before the break. We were able to acknowledge them today. They were given their certificates today. There should be something on our social media site kind of highlighting those things. So again, we appreciate them representing our school well, and kind of a neat honor for them to get that. Under acknowledgements, I'd like to acknowledge Corbin Coulter. He's one of our people, and I say this without offending anybody else, but I don't remember which snow day it was, but I was in there a couple different times, and it was one of those days where you just couldn't get out, and I came in, and Corbin's out pushing snow in the truck, and I came back later today and had it all clear. I think he was the only one here that day, at least for a long period of time. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge him, because he's one of those guys that do anything you ask, and just always getting after it and working hard. So we appreciate him, and wanted to make sure I acknowledge him with that. Moving on to the elementary. For Mrs. Carnes, again, she'd like to welcome students and staff back to school. She'd like to acknowledge maintenance staff for removing snow from the parking lots and the walkways. Kindergarten roundup is tentatively scheduled for March the 4th and 5th, and more information will be provided at a later date. Elementary report cards for the second 9 weeks will be sent home on Friday, January the 17th. And last, the school will be in session on January 20th as a make-up snow day. So you'll be in school on the 20th. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Pritchett. Dr. Apple, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to second the thank you to the maintenance and custodial staffs. There was a lot of snow to push around, a lot of ice to deal with, and as you can see by our parking lots and our sidewalks, they did a great job as usual. It's good to have a set of individuals who know what to do and just do it, and you can consider it to be done, and they did a great job, and I appreciate them for that. And also I want to thank our bus drivers. They don't get a lot of recognition, but today was a little bit of a challenging day for some of them on the drives, but they're professionals, and we had no issues with our buses today, and a lot of it's due to their skill and dedication, and I thank our bus drivers.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to item 9, opportunity for the public to address the board. I have nobody signed up for that, so take us to item 10, personnel.
I have 3 items as a consent agenda recommendation. I recommend that the board approve Morella Evans as elementary instructional assistant at $14 per hour, effective January 2nd. That will be 29 hours a week for 12 weeks and 32 weeks thereafter. Also recommend Alexis Eubank as elementary one-to-one instructional assistant at $14 per hour, also effective January 2nd. Also 29 hours per week for 12 weeks, then 32 thereafter. And then finally, I would recommend Carrie Weininger be approved as varsity golf coach at $2,500.
We have a motion for this. Mr. Weiniger makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Lynch seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Take us to item 11, projects.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we have one small project getting underway. We have a number of outdated LED ceiling lights in the elementary hallways. We're going to be replacing all of those elementary hallway lights in the next month with more energy efficient lights, and those lights will be purchased from Energy Harness with a total installed cost of $10,822.50, and just a good opportunity for us to upgrade our light system. That's all I have for projects.
All right, takes us to item 12, hold and unfinished business. Nothing there. Item 13, new business.
Yeah, I recommend that the board approve a contract with Springer and Springer Insurance and EMC for our commercial and workers' comp insurance for 2025. That would be effective on January 1st, 2024. That commercial package for the year is $111,216, and the workers' compensation insurance is $15,757.
So that'd be January 1st, 2025.
2025. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's so sharp. We have a motion for this. Mr. Marshall makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Perkeyser seconds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 7-0.
Next item, I would request permission or request approval for the purchase of classroom furniture for grade 2 in the amount of $58,510.05. This will be for each grade 2 classroom. The board has been approaching all of our grade levels in the past few years. We've now purchased classroom furniture for grades 2 through 5, and in the next year or two, we will finish up with first grade and kindergarten. But I ask for the approval for this purchase.
Motion for this. Mr. Lynch makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mrs. Newland makes the second. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Take us to item 14, other business which comes before the board. Nothing there. All right, move us to item 15 is policy.
We have a list of policies for second reading, then I would recommend approval of said policies.
Motion for this. Mr. Perkeyser makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Lynch seconds. Any discussion on these? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Takes us to item 10, item 16. Adjournment for this meeting. We'll move to a Board of Finance meeting after this. We have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ferris makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Weiniger seconds. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. Pass the baton to Mr. Marshall.
All right, meeting will come to order for the Board of Finance, the annual meeting that is held in the first meeting in January, this being January 13, 2025. The first item on the agenda is to organize the Board of Finance for this coming year for 2025. Is there a nomination? We will need to elect a president and secretary. Is there any nominations for president and secretary at this time?
Nominate Mr. Marshall as president. Secretary. Mr. Ferris. Nominate Mr. Marshall as president, Mr. Ferris as secretary.
Are there any other nominations? nominations. We'll close the nominations. Is there a motion to close? Mr. Ferris makes a motion. Mr. Perkiser seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, then we'll take a vote. We'll take a vote to close the nominations. All those in favor of closing nominations? All those opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And now for the nominations for President and Secretary of the Board of Finance. Mr. Marshall has been nominated as President, and Mr. Darren Ferris, or Dustin Ferris, has been nominated as Secretary. All those in favor? Well, wait. I've done this for a while, you know. I only do this once a year, you know. All right, is there a motion for the nominations? Mr. Justin Weiniger makes a motion. Mr. Chris Burton seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you all for my annual appointment. All right, with that, moving on to item 2 is review report of investments. And Mrs. Wolfington, I believe, will go over the investments. At least has a report.
At the end of December 2024, we had a combined principal balance in our investment accounts of $5,955,000. That's made up of 2 accounts. One is a money market savings account held at Hoosier Hills Credit Union. That account has a balance of $2,005,000. We have a second account at Springs Valley Bank, a WIN savings account. That account has a balance of $3,950,000 for a combined total of $5,955,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfington. Any questions on that? I believe that's a little bit higher than last year, too.
Just a smidge.
Thank you. All right, with that, moving on to item 3 then, review written report, the corporation's financial condition from the superintendent, Mr. Adler.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. The following report that I will read most of is in your board file. This is a summary of some data taken from the Indiana government website, the DUAB website, which contains all Indiana public school financial data. The full list, the full report of Springs Valley's financial data can be found at that website, and we will post that website link on the Springs Valley website page tomorrow. But just to summarize a few items of interest, in 2024, our ADM was shown as 831 on the DUAB site. Currently that has slipped just a bit under 800. While that 800 seems low, we have toyed with that before and typically have bounced back up. So currently we're right around the 800 mark. Along with the ADM, if you remember last meeting in December, we had a presentation discussing transfer students, and we had decided we were going to put together a committee to look at the transfers out from our district. Every school corporation has transfers out and transfers in, and we're just going to take a look at our transfers out and see if there's a rhyme or reason for that and what we might do to minimize the transfers out to help our ADM. The next thing I want to bring a little bit of attention to is our fund balances. In 22-23, the 22-23 year, our fund balances of all funds was $2.68 million. 23-24, that fund balance increased to $3,466,000 and some change. That's an increase of $784,000 roughly. Most of that increase is due to curricular fund, our curricular fund being included in that count, we had some extracurricular fund money that we received, and also increases to our casino revenue and other miscellaneous increases. The balances in just our education and our operations fund, which runs our day-to-day operations, those balances in December of 2022, those combined balances were $1,120,000. In December of 23, they were $1,536,000, and just last month, those combined balances were approximately $1,200,000. The dip from December of 23 to December of 24 and those balances can be attributed partly to we had some increases in some things. We had an increase to our co-op payments. We purchased a school bus, which is unusual. We don't typically do that. We had some software that we typically would get reimbursed for that we did not. So a few factors that drove that balance down, but that balance is still in good shape versus 2 years ago. And then the next thing is our annual deficit surplus, and this is something I think that is good news for everyone. The past 2 years, as reported by DUAB, we have had a surplus. When you look at our revenues versus expense, in 22 we had a $557,000 surplus, meaning we spent, we had $557,000 more revenue than what we spent. And in 2023, that surplus, it's going to seem inflated, going to seem large. It's $2,827,000. Our revenue jumped up to $14,939,000, while our expenses just went up about our total expenses just went up about $500 to $12,112. The increase in revenue is due to our bond issuance, $1.5 million. We had an increase in our, as I said, an increase in our casino revenue. We had some revenue that from our hail damage that we received from the insurance company, and then also our increase in state funding. So all of that combined kind of inflates our revenue somewhat, but still, even without that, we would have been running in the positive. So we're spending less than we're taking in, not dramatically, but we're just being mindful of the taxpayer money there. That concludes my written report, and as I said, the full report from UAB will be linked on our website tomorrow, if anyone wants to look at that.
Thank you, Dr. Apple, for that detailed report.
Yes.
Any questions for Dr. Apple at this time? If there's no questions, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Board of Finance annual meeting.
Mr. Marshall,
Oh, yes.
I do have 2 checks that I'd like to request that I can void. They are over the 2-year limit, so I would like to void check number 29335 made out to Shamar Clark in the amount of $8.73. That was wrote on June 24, 2022. And then same amount wrote out to Brock Warner. That was check number 29343. That money will go back into the education fund coaching staff. So these are beyond the maximum allowed over the time. I'd like to request that I can vote these.
Okay. Is there a motion that we void the checks as presented from Mrs. Wolfington? Mr. Burton so moves, Mr. Lynch seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Anything else to come before the Board of Finance annual meeting before we adjourn? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Weiniger so moves. Your second. Mr. Burton seconds. All those in favor of adjournment, raise your right hand. Opposed? This